spiritual growth. Let's continue our discussion on this theme. Talk a little bit about how we can grow spiritually. Because if you're anything like me, you have noticed at some point in life that things are out of balance. Maybe your work-life balance is off. Maybe you don't feel as though you are able to be your true self for some reason that you can either name or not name. Maybe it's the fact that the world is out of balance. Wars going on, climate change, all sorts of things just seem off these days. And because we are currently in the spring equinox season, I thought it would be a good time to talk about the mundane and spiritual balance, because that comes into it too. Many of us have focused so much on the mundane side of things that we have completely neglected our spiritual side, and we're feeling the loss now. Welcome, merry meet everyone. I'm Witch Hazel, and on this channel I like to chat about bringing together the spiritual and the mundane, the practical aspects of witchcraft and the spiritual side, which is sometimes a bit more difficult to get a grasp on. I like to point out that these two things are essentially one and the same. They are just focused on a little bit differently. And I really would like to bridge the gap between the witches and the spiritualists, because I've noticed there is a gap. And there is kind of a judgment thing going on. So we're going to work on moving away from that and finding out how we are all really essentially practicing the same thing using different verbiage. Moving along the path of spiritual growth. How can we go about it? If you've been hanging around the channel for a little bit, you will know that I first and foremost and always advocate intuition. Working on improving your intuition. Why? Because intuition is our direct connection to the divine. Our intuition, that little voice inside your head that tells you, do this, don't do that. You don't know where exactly this voice is coming from, but if you trust it, it's usually correct. That is divine. That is the voice of spirit coming through to you and trying to help you. We need to develop a strong intuition if we want to develop a strong sense of spirituality. I believe there's no two ways about it. These things go together. If you are a more intuitive person, then just by default, you have a more spiritual nature. Now, does this mean that if you are not a very intuitive person, you're just out of luck for spirituality? No, it does not. Many of us these days are not intuitive because it has been trained out of us. We have been trained to rely on facts given to us. We've been trained to rely on everything must be proven through science. Now, I know some people are going to get upset with me about this, and I've seen it swing kind of both ways. There are folks who say that if it's not scientifically proven, it doesn't exist. And then there are many people who are getting on the bandwagon of neuroscience and quantum physics and using that as a justification for spiritual concepts, which it is, because yes, it is starting to prove those concepts. My take on it is science is wonderful. Science is great. Science is man-made. And men, meaning human beings, we don't know it all. We're not meant to know it all. We were created by something bigger than ourselves, whatever you want to call it. Therefore, yes, science is wonderful. No, science does not prove everything. Because of that, because we don't have the answers to everything, we need to learn how to trust our intuition. Now, this is different from trusting our instincts, because instincts are very much mundane and natural. These instincts are what we have to prevent us from getting eaten, to prevent us from harm and death, right? Fight or flight. These are our instincts. Intuition can help on that front, but intuition is knowledge. It is the knowing of something even when you haven't studied it, even when you don't know why you know something, but you know something is true. That's your intuition. And intuition works, again, because it is the direct divine connection. Universe knows it all. Universe created us. Universe created everything. Universe is energy. Energy flows through everything. If we are actively connected to that energy, we're always connected to it. We're part of it. If you're alive, you are an energetic being. But we're not always aware of it. We're not always active in it. And therefore, if you train yourself to be actively aware of the energetic forces around you, that will show as an improved intuitive power. That will show as an improved ability to trust your inner self. How do we go about this? I have in the description for you a 4-step guide to improving your intuitive powers. It's meant to help you go through the process of listening to yourself and learning to tune in to yourself over the span of about 30 days. And within that time frame, if you stick with it, you should see a significant improvement in your ability to trust yourself. Why is this important? Because without that trust, without that confidence, without that connection, we are never going to be our best selves. Because if we are not actively connected to divine, then what's the only other option? We're disconnected, right? And if we're disconnected, that means we're probably over here floating in mundane land and getting caught up in the everyday get up, go to work, get home, go to sleep, repeat. Get up, go to work, go home. And we can live our entire lives that way. But doing so would be really a disappointment, I think, to the divine, because we are capable of much, much more than that. And when we are not taking advantage of our creative capability, inevitably we feel disappointed, we feel dissatisfied with life. By working on our intuition, by working on spiritual growth through intuition, by default, we have to improve our lives. My opinion, but I'm pretty sure it's true, because once you have this connection, once you can see how creative you are, how good of a manifesting being you are, then the world seems like a much more interesting place. You realize that you are capable of much more than you thought you were. It takes away limitations, it takes away boundaries. And I think human beings need that. We need the ability to just run free. All animals need that, just the freedom to be, to run, to experience. And that is the importance of finding intuition and developing your spirituality. So developing that spiritual growth into bigger and better things in your life. We didn't go too much into practices and techniques in this video. I can talk a bit more about that. To get started though, do check out that freebie in the description, because there are several suggestions in there for activities you can do to help improve your intuition. I wish you the best of luck in finding and communing with that little inner voice that you have. Finding your intuition, growing spiritually. Now is the perfect time of year to really get into that growth. Wishing you well until the next video, and until then, blessed be.